Okay, we're going to, because it's 90 something degrees here, we're going to make broccoli soup. So we got broccoli, we got an onion, we got a bunch of garlic, we got some chicken broth. This is really simple. It's one pot and probably takes all of about a half an hour to do. First thing you're going to do is you're going to cut up the onion. So you take off the ends, cut it in half, peel it. So you got these things like this. Get rid of this crap because you don't want to be eating onion peels. And then you want to take, to slice an onion, you want to take it with, that's the root end, that little bit there. Can you see that? You want to slice vertically, big chunks as you want. Don't worry about size on this one because it's all going to wind up in a blender of some sort at the end. So we're just going to chunk this up. Do the same thing with the other piece. Cut it there. Remember, keep your fingers up above and just come straight down. When you get towards this end, if you take off that part, it gets easier to slice a little more of that. Get that. Now, what we're going to do is we've got a pot. This pot, you've seen this pot. It is, I don't know, a couple of quarts. I'm going to put some good olive oil in the bottom of it. Couple of glugs. You sort of want to just about coat the bottom of the pan. And once you got that in there, you're going to take your onions and you're just going to scrape them off into the pan and turn it on sort of a low heat. And then you're going to take your garlic, and you don't need to do anything more. And this is, I know you're looking at this thinking, oh my God, he's crazy. That's a lot of garlic. You just want to basically give it a little smash. It helps release the oils on the inside, which is where all the flavor is. Don't worry about peeling off the ends, because remember, this is all just going to get blended up. So don't worry about that. You put this in there. So that's, that's what it looks like. And you're going to put it over the heat, and you're going to let it cook for a bit. And in the meantime, while that's cooking, I have 4 small broccoli crowns. If your broccoli crowns are bigger, use 2, but this size you basically want 4. And like with the garlic and the onions, you just sort of want to take off this part on the bottom that's a little tough. Don't use a knife like that. Take off the bottom part because that's kind of gross. And then you basically just want to cut it into chunks that are big enough to fit comfortably in your pot. Okay? Secret with this is if you cut down through the stem and then pull it apart, it'll tend to sort of break along natural lines, and you'll keep more of the actual little individual broccoli stems whole, although frankly that doesn't really matter unless you're doing steamed broccoli and you want it to look nice, or it's a stir fry or something like that. Because this is all going to just get whizzed up in the blender, it really doesn't make any difference. So now you get a big old pile of broccoli. And we're going to let this cook, and I'll come back to you in a minute. All right, so you hear that sound? That's the sound you want. You just want it sort of gently cooking along there. You're going to cook it down until the onions are sort of translucent. You don't really want them to be brown, but you do want them cooked through. So this will take probably, 5 to 7 minutes. Keep an eye on it. If it starts to get too hot, turn the heat down a little bit. Give it a stir from time to time. And you probably put a good pinch of salt in there at this point. And we'll come back to this in a minute. All right, so that sort of looks like where I want it to be. You can see the onion is pretty soft. It hasn't turned brown, but it's definitely changed color. The garlic's pretty mashable. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little spice to this, if I can open these things, which, all right, people design containers that you can't open is just beyond me. So I'm going to put in, this is smoked paprika from Trader Joe's. There are a couple of different kinds of paprika, which is basically a Hungarian pepper that's dried and ground. Smoked, sweet, hot. The hot is quite hot. And just regular old paprika. I happen to like the flavor of the smoked. And this is turmeric. They say it has health value, something with your brain or something. I don't know. I like the color. Cumin, ground cumin. You'll notice the consistency in the label on all these things. It's trying to focus on stuff I know you can actually get there. And that's been a teaspoon of each of those. Cumin, paprika, and turmeric. Now, I'm going to put in, because I like a little spice, as you know, and broccoli, frankly, is pretty dull. I'm going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of your friend cayenne pepper. Put in more if you want. Put it in none if you don't want. The important thing to remember is you can always add in cooking. It's really hard to subtract. So go light and add if you want to add some more flavor to it. But if you put too much in, you're going to just have to eat some crappy soup. We're going to give this a stir. You the spices get to cook a little bit, and you'll see the change in color. That yellowy color is from the turmeric, and you'll begin to smell. Oh yeah, you can smell the paprika, you can smell the cumin, and just let that go for, just, I don't know, a minute or so. And we'll come back. All right, that's been about a minute. Yeah, that's nice. See how it's colored, the olive oil in the bottom of the pan. All right, now what we're going to do is you're literally just going to take your broccoli and put it in the pot. Everything, just like this. Put it in, smash it down. Remember, it's all going to get ground up anyway. And once you got all the broccoli in the pot, the next thing is to make it into soup, and that requires liquid. I am using TJ's low sodium chicken broth. I like the low sodium kind because you don't need any more salt than you already have in your diet. And you can add salt if you want, but some of the ones you buy in the supermarket, the ones with salt in them, they frankly just don't taste very good. They taste like salt. This actually tends to taste like chickens. And you want to put this in. This is a quart. And here you're just eyeballing it. I'm going to add some more. You don't necessarily need to cover the broccoli because as it cooks, it's going to cook down. But you do want enough liquid in there that you're actually making a soup. Now, you're going to put the lid on it. You're going to turn the heat up to high. And as soon as it comes to a boil, you're going to turn it down and let it simmer. So we're going to let this come back to a boil, and then we'll come back and revisit it. Okay, so we're boiling. Now, you just want to sort of see if you can kind of push everything down. Don't worry if you can't. It's not a big deal. And don't worry if you break it up. Remember, eventually it's all going to just get whizzed up in a blender. Once it's at a boil, cover back on, turn the heat down to low. Now, go read a book, take a shower, I don't know, go to the gym, something. It's going to take probably 20, maybe 30 minutes for the broccoli to soften up to where we want it to be. So go do something interesting, and we'll come back in 20 minutes. Not a bad idea to look at it from time to time, give it a stir, but if you don't, no harm, no foul. We'll be back in a few. All right, Em, it's been about half an hour. This is what you're looking at. It's pretty well cooked down. There's some chunks in here. It's really hot, so be careful with it. Now, you got a couple of choices at this point. I have an immersion blender. This thing, which I would not recommend buying it. I probably use this thing 6 times a year, and frankly, it's not something I would go out and buy. I think I have it because at some point several years ago, I had some Delta Sky Miles left in my account. It wasn't enough for a flight, and they were going to expire, and their store, I could buy a thing there. So I've had it easily 10 or 12 years, and if I use it twice a year, it's probably a lot. I wouldn't go down that road. This is a food mill. It sits on top of a pot like that. In this case, you'd put it on top of a bowl. Bear with me for a second. Let's slide you over there. You put it on top of a bowl like this. You'd pour the soup through it, sort of in portions, and then you literally just grind it, and It forces the liquid through. It keeps the solids. It works really well. You got to sort of figure out if you're going to be doing this enough to warrant that. The last option is a blender. You want to take the top, put your liquid in about halfway, put a towel over the top. You want to hold this sucker down because the hot liquid wants to expand just naturally. Physics will tell you that. And between that and the motion of the blender that's going to push the liquid, that's going to force the liquid up, you know how a blender works, you want to hold this thing down. All right, so a couple of minutes with the immersion blender, the thing that Emeril Lagasse used to call the boat motor. And you have what looks like a pretty good soup here. Couple of options at this point. You can add cream if you want, if you're looking for sort of a cream of broccoli soup. I don't know that the cream actually adds any real flavor, but it definitely adds some fat and it adds some mouthfeel, and both of those things are good. I add goat cheese, and this is just goat cheese that you buy in a log. I buy it at Costco. You can get it at Trader Joe's. Take a whisk, and you basically just want to whisk it in. And this is so hot that the goat cheese ought to just gradually dissolve. I mean, outside of having to cook the broccoli down, bringing this whole soup together, you're probably looking at, all told, less than an hour. Now, this is really hot, like hotter, I think, than I want it to be tasted. But let's see if we can. Definitely taste the goat cheese. Here's the broccoli. Needs some salt. I use kosher salt. Put some salt in, give it another taste. Yeah, that's pretty good. You know what it doesn't have in it? It doesn't have any black pepper in it, which is, I guess, like almost a sin around here not to have any in it. And I know you're thinking, oh my God, that's a lot of pepper. It's really not. You probably have, I'm going to guess, between 2 and 3 quarts of soup here. And your mom and I are going to have this for dinner tonight with probably just a crunchy baguette. It's basically vegetables and chicken stock. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with that. You didn't add any crap to it. Anyway, enjoy it. Try it. Let me know how it comes out. If you have any questions, shoot me a note, and I'll try and answer them for you. But I think for now, that's my incredibly easy, what was that? Broccoli, onions, garlic, chicken stock, goat cheese. We won't count the spices. Basically 5 ingredient broccoli soup. And if you make it like this, there's enough for a couple of days going down the road. Enjoy it. Love you. Have another one in a couple of days.